Good evening, everyone. Happy fall. Goodbye, summer. I could have a motion to call this September meeting of the Southampton Village Planning Board to order.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary, our consultant regarding the Beechwood Latch 101-109 Hill Street application isn't here, but there's been a fair amount of correspondence regarding this application. We are involved with the adoption of the environmental impact scoping document. Basically, to summarize what's happened, we had public hearing regarding the draft scoping document. Public comment was recorded. There was an opportunity for written public input, during which time the board received a number of comments from interested parties in the public regarding revisions that they sought to the scoping document. The applicant responded with their thoughts regarding those comments from the public, and our consultant, Patrick Cleary, has melded the public comments with the applicant's response in a series of recommendations to the scoping document. My understanding from Mr. Cleary discussing with him is that the applicant is okay with his recommendations for the changes to the scoping document. Is that a fair assumption? So, that being the case, is there any more discussion? Any of the board members, anyone in the public wish to discuss this further? Just to reiterate, the scoping document just broadly, it just outlines what areas of environmental impact this need to be reviewed for this application to proceed. It includes groundwater, parking, noise, impact on the community. All the broad characteristics of an environmental study are included within the scoping document. And as that process evolves, there is no comment or indication from the board at this time with what's included in the scoping document, whether it's good or bad. It's just these are the areas that need to be reviewed. So that said, if there's no further comment, I'd like to make a motion to approve the scoping document as amended by Mr. Cleary. What would the language for that be, Bo?
Motion to approve the amended scoping document. I don't know the date of it.
Stamped September 2nd.
Yep.
Stamped September 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me?
The public hearing for 550 and 554 Sill Street has been held open. Mr. Flanagan.
Good evening. For the applicant, Gilbert G. Flanagan, 21 South Main Street, Southampton. Also with me this evening are Anthony Tohill, my co-counsel, and Dave Emilita, our planning consultant. What I thought I would do this evening is just summarize where we are and what I hope the next steps would be, and to make sure that there are certain documents that you have in the file and are reviewing them. The first one I would suggest is important is the May 31st, 2016 memo from Nelson Pope and Voorhees, which outlined a number of issues that were raised by the board and the public at the public hearings which were previously held, and making suggestions about modifications to the sketch plan to reflect some of those concerns. So that's the start-off document, if you will. The second thing I would want to make sure that you're all reviewing in terms of the sketch plan and the CEQA process, which goes along with it, is the June 18th, 2016 last revised sketch plan, which shows 3 lots, which shows the building envelopes on each of the 3 lots based on lot size as provided in one of the sections of the village code, and also the reversal of the front and rear yards on lot number 3, which is the southerlymost lot, such that the backyards of lots 2 and 3 are adjacent to one another. That was submitted along with a letter from me dated, I think, from my writing, it looks like June 25th, which outlines what we had done to address the design issues raised in the report. The third thing which we submitted and which you should have in front of you is an analysis of the variances we believe we would need with the three-lot subdivision based on the June 18th, 2016 map. And that was submitted with a letter of August 24th, 2016, which was before your work session. Finally, in terms of current information, by submissions dated August 26th, there is an updated long environmental assessment form, Part 1, prepared by Dave Emilita to reflect the three lots, the building envelopes, and the designs reflected in the June 18th sketch plan, and also an updated addendum to that long environmental assessment form, which, among other things, has a rather detailed neighborhood analysis as a part of it, as was suggested by your planning consultant. And there are two other things which are not new, but I'll mention them anyway, just so that everyone can recall them. An issue did come up at the work session about fire access, and it was noted that by letter dated April 1st, 2016, the fire marshal had looked at the new site plan and had felt that, provided certain things were done, it was acceptable from his standpoint. I believe that you may have asked him to update that letter, and that would be certainly fine with us. I would point out to you that, as a practical matter, obviously the Lot 1, which fronts directly on Hill Street, there's no fire access issue. Lot 2, which is the middle lot, would derive access by a driveway easement over Lot 1 and would effectively be the same thing as, functionally, as a flagpole lot, although it's not a flagpole lot legally. And the fire marshal typically doesn't have any special fire access regulations for flagpole lots. The same could also be said of Lot 3, which would derive its access via a driveway easement over adjoining property from Captain's Neck Lane. The final thing I would mention, there was a question about the impact of historic districts, since these properties are at the very end of one part of the Village Historic District. And there should be a letter, there is a letter in your file from Zach Studenroth, who's the village historical consultant, dated May 27, 2015, indicating that from his research and from the materials submitted, neither of the properties is a contributing property within the historic district, and that demolition of those structures would not be an issue. That's really all I plan to do today, is to make sure that those are the things you have in front of you to review so that we can move forward with the SEQA process. And as I understand it, the way we're going to proceed is that the next thing you would do would be to make a SEQA determination of significance or non-significance. And if things go the way we hope they might go, then we would have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals to get those certain variances which the three lots would require. Assuming that is successful, we would then come back to you for actual sketch plan review and action, and ultimately a final application. So that's all I have to say. I do have Mr. Emilita here if you have any technical questions about his recent submission. I recognize with the holidays and so forth, and the fact that some of this material was submitted only a week or 10 days ago, you may not have had a chance to review it, but I would encourage you to do so that we can move things forward. Thank you.
Gil, I've been in contact with the State Historic Agency, and one building, I think, on the west is on their registry, but they consider it a matter of local determination.
Yes.
So Zach's report basically gives his opinion of that. I can't tell you at the moment, but I will look into this between now and the next meeting as to what the protocol might be between this board and the ARB or the Historic Board to make that determination. So in other words, if we're sort of conditioning things on the Board of Appeals, we might also think of doing that with the ARB just to clear that issue up.
That would be reasonable. Obviously, we'd have to go to them in any event, so
Yeah.
that's not a
Maybe
not
it'd
an
be
issue.
better to get it out of the way earlier than later.
It's not an issue. That can certainly be a condition. We have to do it anyway.
Any questions for Mr. Flanagan or Mr. Emilita? Further comment from the public?
could adjourn it for all purposes. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Jeff Bragman, on behalf of Objecting Neighbors. We did get the document rather late. I've looked it over. I'd like to have some time to make a more studied response to the neighborhood analysis, which I think has some problems in it. But before I do that, I'd like to see the response of Kathy Eisman and Nelson Pope. I assume there'll be a response to this latest submission. So my only request today would be to adjourn it so that we have time to look at her analysis, and then I'd like to give you something in writing in response. I mean, I have a critique of that memorandum that was submitted, but I don't think it's effective use of your time for me to start now without first seeing what Nelson Pope and Voorhees has to say about it and sort of give you something more formal at another date. I don't know how long she will take to do that.
I'll have something before the next work session.
And so can we come back to the next work session so that we have a chance to hear what her memo is? Or I'm going to need, I think, probably something around 3 weeks or so to give you something in writing. It's a lengthy memo. It's the only chance I'm going to have to give you something with some degree of formality, I think.
Well, as much as I'd like to push this forward, the applicant has adjourned this on several cases, so I certainly think it's fair to give you guys time to take a look at what they've proposed and the statements they've made and have a chance to review what Kathy's analysis is.
So could we come back and have a discussion of Kathy's analysis, and then I'll respond to
Correct.
her analysis and the memo and get some time to do it? That's what I would like to do. I mean, I have also comments on the subject of the historic structure on site as well, but again, I think it's probably better to consolidate everything, take less of your time, and give you something in writing. Thank you.
Additional public comment.
Good evening, David Kirst, Egan Matthews. I'd like to follow along with what Mr. Bragman had to say. Again, we'd like some time to look at this and let the board know, we're here on an objecting neighbor who's still here after a 4-year-long process, who's still very much involved and interested in this application, and we'd like to see this through, and we welcome the time to review the EAF Part 2 from Nelson Pope and submit written comments as well as comments at the next meeting regarding same. So thank you very much. I hope you guys everybody's still listening. I know it's been a very long process here, and hopefully that we won't get lost in all of the backstory and can review this as it is proposed. So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Mr. Tohill? No.
Thank you.
Mr. Flan, is that all right with you? Yes. I think it's fair. So, Steve, could you make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn for all purposes the 555 Hill Street application until the next meeting, public meeting, which is October 3rd, 2016.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item for public hearing is the Emanon East Corporation, where we've been awaiting indication from the village inspector that the applicant had met certain conditions.
Yeah. We did receive that memo from John Foster today, actually, so stating that it's fine for the planning board to proceed.
So in that case, it would be appropriate to close the public hearing and make this, move this application for decision, Bums?
Are we ready for final, Kathy?
Yeah.
Do we have some type of a final map?
Yeah, they did resubmit their map, yep. I don't have it in my file today. I didn't bring everything with me, so there is a map of the...
Is it showing where the curb cuts are? There's existing curb cuts.
This is an old one. It's being redone for a new
It
one.
has the health department stamp and everything. It has the proposed, that hasn't changed from last time. So they did have the curb cut.
It's an old one. I think, Steve, this is an old one that's been redone because of
Right.
the change
Right.
of ownership. So that means they're the broken move on.
That one, there's a topo map that's separate from the...
Dated the 26th, but I don't see health department on it.
That one is just the topo map, I believe, that you're
Right,
looking
yes, it does. Yeah, that's just a second. This is May 6th. Is that what,
Yeah, this was all.
here's the biggie one. Do we have health department on this? Yes, Suffolk County Health Department. You want to see it, Steve?
Yeah, please. And this lot 1 is this where there's an existing house?
No, it's on two.
The existing house?
I think the existing
Yes,
house is in the
lot
middle
two.
lot, Steve.
Yeah.
It's in the middle. And then toward you was where it goes up to the tank, and so that's where the,
Back in here. This one here. 3, I know 3 is the one where the...
yeah, that was
Where the burn was on.
topographic.
To the north.
Right. Is there an issue with one of the houses on this lot that's in the historic district? So I remember the house across the street was the Aquino house that they refused to give them a demo permit on.
I couldn't give you the
And this
status. I don't know
this
whether
house
that's,
says,
Steve, I don't know whether that house is in the historic district or not.
Yeah, I think it is.
well, should we approve something that says two-story house to be removed if it may not be removed?
Well, we're just closing the public hearing at this point,
Okay.
but I would definitely look at it.
Okay. Thank you.
Chairman, if I might, I just might note that that lot, the house that we're talking about on Lot 2, that's in a conforming location anyway, so if the subdivision is implemented, we wouldn't be creating any nonconformities. So even if it turned out that the house couldn't be removed, it would be legal as part of the subdivision. It wouldn't affect the subdivision design at all.
Steve, you okay with closing the public hearing? Sure. Make a motion to close the
I'll
public
move we close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we want to talk about Herbert Real Estate at 5143 Jobs Lane.
Applicant John Bennett, just want everyone to realize that I'm submitting the affidavits of mailing and posting. It's a very straightforward application. It's to small addition to the existing Topiary flower shop. Property has 3 commercial buildings on it, one of which is that Topiary flower shop. Pretty straightforward application. We are before the Zoning Board of Appeals. The parcel, the parking in the rear is currently striped to have 19 spaces. There is a variance that was granted some time ago for 20 spaces on the property. So the addition of this small addition will only require 1 space, but we do know that there was some comment from the board and from Kathy that even though we could comply and create 20 spaces, there was a preference to leave the back striped as it is. So therefore, we went to the Zoning Board of Appeals and asked for a waiver of 2 spaces. And the Zoning Board of Appeals didn't seem to have a problem with it. The only thing they did want, understandably, because we're asking for 1 but 2 spaces, was something from the board saying that they would prefer, which presumably they do, would prefer the current configuration, which is, was it, there are 19 spaces there now. So again, we could restripe the parking lot to effect, as it were, 20 spaces. But Kathy, I think, wisely suggested that we just leave it alone. That would require a variance for not 1 but 2 spaces, which we're more than happy to prosecute before the Zoning Board of Appeals.
And that would allow you to have a handicap accessible stall and an aisle where pedestrians could go into the courtyard to get to the shops and actually have a ramp there, so
It's actually sort of
This
neat.
is a
It's one of the few.
248 square foot addition? No, 296.
96.
Not 248.
296.
296.
Yeah.
It's actually one of those unusual retail spaces in the village that comes somewhat close to the, in the Job's Lane, Main Street area, that comes somewhat close to the parking requirement. So, and it's not, even though that's the number of spaces required, it's not, I've never seen it overburden
It's not, it's never.
most of the people, particularly for the flower shop, it's street traffic. Whenever I've gone there, I've tried to find a space on the street, but that's just anecdotal, so pretty straightforward.
So I did start a memo, but I wanted to go over it with Bo before I sent it. Sent it to you first as a draft, but tried to finish it today. I didn't get to finish it.
Okay, well, I'm in favor of that letter being sent to the CBA.
Yeah, the only thing I would ask, unless there's public comment, it's, you can just close the public hearing, we can work everything else out.
So that is a letter from the planning board to the Board of Appeals
Yeah.
stating that the planning board favors retention of the present striping,
Thus
Period.
requiring
thus requiring two variants or two
two
additional
spaces.
or waiver of two spaces.
Yes. And I did say to the board, I can provide, just for information generally, I can provide 20 spaces. So why don't you make me pay for one of the spaces but waive the fee on the other one? That didn't.
It didn't fly, did it?
I had to try.
Good try.
That's a good try. But yeah, Rick understandably wanted something, communication directly from the board on that. But that's all I
All right,
have.
John, thank you. Is there additional public comment on this application?
Second floor across from Starbucks.
Seeing as there's no additional public
This is,
comment, can I have a
Job's
motion
Lane
to close the
Flower Shop.
public hearing?
And authorize council to draft a letter to the Board of Appeals expressing the sentiment of the planning board that the present striping should remain, thus resulting in a variance of 2 parking spaces.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bo, do we note the fact that in doing that, leaving it, Kathy said there are those 2 improvements on access and handicap.
Sorry, say that again?
We had a comment here that in doing that, we noted a gain of handicapped access and the pathway for,
Is there a handicap access there now? No? Okay, so
so those two,
Achieve that.
those are two
striping
nice
to
conditions that got
remain,
added.
but 1 handicap access to be designated.
Ramped passageway for the public.
In subdivision review, we are looking at Southampton Real Estate Partners at 85 and 95 Down East Lane, which is close for decision.
In the file is a decision approving the 2-lot subdivision, conditional upon the applicant filing or recording a covenant approved by the village attorney to the effect that limited variance relief will be granted based upon, in exchange for the approval of the subdivision. An affirmative vote on the motion will be to approve the subdivision with that condition.
Motion so moved.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye.
All in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against, say nay. The motion, the decision is approved. Is this the final copy? No, who's got the?
Pam,
Got the
there's an
original.
extra copy of the decision in the file.
I'll give it.
Gil.
Thanks. Thank you, thank you.
Next subdivision review is Donahue and Silvitz at 42 and 32 Post Crossing.
This was considered a type 1 action due to its location in the historic district, and we did a coordinated review with the health department, and They did not respond, and therefore this board becomes lead agency and can adopt the neg deck. And I have a neg deck for you to approve. It just needs to be dated and initialed.
It is your recommendation that we adopt the neg deck?
It is.
Yep.
Make a motion to adopt the neg deck on the 3234 Post Crossing lot line modification.
Second that.
All in favor of the negative declaration?
Aye.
Aye. Now, do we need to adjourn that, Kathy, or does that automatically happen?
And adjourn for all purposes.
Now that's closed and for decision at this point, then.
Correct, closed. Sorry, just adjourn for all purposes.
Make a motion on the 4232 Post Crossing to adjourn for all purposes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. You'll email me a copy. I need to send it off to the health department.
Okay. I'm going to initial this one, and we can give this to you.
Thank you.
Wayne, I can give you this one, though.
Wayne.
Hey, Wayne. Delivery.
That's even better.
There.
Just, yep.
I need to call you tomorrow for zero.
Moving
Thank you.
into site plan review, the Village of Southampton's ambulance barn at 151 Windmill Lane, which is closed for decision.
Mr. Borovina was here earlier, and I discussed his client's response to the decision of the village concerning requests for what his clients consider mitigation of the impact of the project. Mr. Borovina acknowledges that the client, being the village, made those determinations. There wasn't a matter of discussion with the planning board. So I will have a decision ready for the board on the next meeting, formal meeting in October. There's no need, well, you could adjourn it, I guess, for all purposes until.
Motion to adjourn the 151 Windmill Lane for all purposes until the October 3rd, is that the right one?
Correct.
Third public meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And 71 Hill Street, which is an application regarding the reconfiguration of 71 and 91 Hill Street.
That should be retained on the agenda. As requested by the board, I drafted a letter to the trustees dated August 4th, stating that the trustees favored, in principle, upgrading or bettering the area around the inn, but based upon the fact that there were no further details available, the board could not be more specific. So I think the matter is now back in front of the trustees for their decision as to whether or not they will consider going further with this or not. So all we need to do is just keep that on the agenda until the Board of Trustees have made some indication to the property owner as to what will happen.
Make a motion on the 71 and 91 Hill Street application to adjourn for all purposes to the October 3rd public meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there are minutes from our July 5th and August 1st meetings and July 25th and August 29th work sessions. Does anyone have any corrections or changes to be made to those? Can I have a motion to approve all those minutes then?
Motion to approve the minutes of the July 5th, July 25th, August 1st, and July 29th, 2016 minutes.
August 29th.
August 29th.
29th, sorry.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next meeting of the Planning Board will be September 26th here in this room at 5 p.m. That will be a work session, followed by the next regularly scheduled public meeting, October 3rd at 5:30 p.m. With no further business to discuss, could I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.